Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the channel. My name is Zodi, and today we're going to take a little look at the recent changes in update 29 in the Elder Scrolls Online. Yes, the most dreaded update 29. A lot of hatred in the community, a lot of fear in the community, but frankly the changes are so big, it is to be expected. I want to take a quick look and talk about race changes and why they are good. I want to talk about the stat changes and why they are good. And then I want to also talk a little bit about armor mitigation and what it actually means for us solo players in the Elder Scrolls Online. Now, without further ado, let's bring up the user interface and take a look at the buffed stats. Now, we're on a high elf sorcerer at the moment. We have fully spec into max magicka, and yes, resources are looking good, really good. 40k, 42,000 maximum magicka, 23 almost maximum health, over 12,000 maximum stamina, which is actually really good. Well, this is actually low-end recoveries for the new update, so we're not really going into that in this build, but we have ample spell damage and yeah, well, not that much spell critical anymore. Also, we now have the option to actually see our spell penetration as a flat value. We actually know how much we penetrate. That is a new one, and it is very helpful. And speaking of helpful, there's also this little tab here with the advanced stats now, where we can actually also get all these very good, very helpful informations about our current build. How much our blocks cost, how much our break free costs, how much we block, how much we mitigate with blocking. This is actually really nice. Additionally, all the basic resistances, what we have here, how much mitigation that is in percentage, or what we get as damage bonuses. So, for example, obviously as a sorcerer we get more physical damage and more shock damage. Surprise, surprise. The only thing that does not yet work is the display of critical damage. It always says flat 0 and %0. Whatever you do, you can get buffs, no matter, you can get CP passives, no matter, it will say 0. Well, there has to be room for improvement, right? Okay, now let's talk a little bit why they did it. Well, obviously the increase to the maximum resources and the maximum spell damage is kind of a necessity when one comprehends all the changes that have been made. Mitigation has been lowered, damage sources, simple DPS that one can achieve alone or in a group has been lowered, and to kind of counterbalance all the high-end tier and the low-end tier with one another, there have been probably a lot of propositions that have been made while the developers were deciding on what to do, but simply bringing all those max resources and the damage higher up as a base stat was probably the easiest choice that they had, because it's just so easy to implement. Obviously that one has a purpose, and the purpose is to, saying it up front and out loud, is to balance out the game anew so that we as players have to make meaningful gameplay and player build decisions. That was not the case in the past. Over the last years, one is inclined to say, there was always just one meta, very prevalent with the races. That was not good. You literally had no race choice. You were either Orc if you were Stamina, you were High F if you were Magicka DPS, you were a Nord when you were tanking, and a Breton when you were healing. Full stop. There was no discussion, there was no spectrum that you could actually do. And if you wanted to go on raids, high-end raids, pushing for scores, you weren't accepted if you were not one of those races in the role that you wanted to play. Raid leaders would send you off to progression groups instead. That was just the reality. That's it. And that was a bad thing, because that hurt the community indirectly, because MMOs are about enjoying the role playing and enjoying the community aspect, that playing together. And on that note, we come to the next point. Elder Scrolls Online has been notorious, I would have to say, for being a very solo-friendly MMO. And I don't want to say it's a bad thing, but soloing in Elder Scrolls Online was very easy. And the reason was just simply you could get everything that you needed all together in one big bundle, and you needn't really to do anything to achieve it. It was just part of the natural progression. The more champion points you got, the more damage you could get, you could assemble, you could get more critical just by having specific sets. You could get a lot of mitigation, very, very high mitigation actually. So high that on her build in the previous patch I could actually just face tank veteran dungeon bosses. I did a previous video about this, just showcasing crack and how easy it is to take the heavy attacks from a veteran dungeon boss. 2,300, 4,000 damage it dealt, nothing more. And when you have 20k health, well, this is just a, well, it's a big fly you swat, nothing more. And that is actually a bad thing, because veteran dungeon bosses should be about the group play. There should be 4 players working together, figuring out how to beat the boss, preferably through the mechanics. That is how it is intended to be. And yeah, I think the intention is also to get all that back, to get the multiplayer orientation of the whole MMO back, and I think they did it. Individual mitigation is now much harder to come by. As you can see here, 14,000 physical resistance. This is a 511 setup. By the way, this it's not that high. It's really not that high. We get spell resistance bonuses now from light armor passives. But what is also down are the flat bonuses. The impact of skill is here actually having minor resolve active all the time. I have still minor protection active all the time on the front bar. But still, it's it's not that much. It feels a lot more squishier, and taking damage is dangerous now, especially boss heavy attacks. So again, the game kind of forces you now to adopt other ways of mitigation, and like I said, blocking is now a thing. Roll dodging for 0 damage is now a thing. A lot of people will have to adopt new playstyles for this, and this is a good thing because it pushes the players out of the comfort zone. Again, having just the possibility, or just creating the possibility for the player to improve again, to learn something new, to have new sense of achievement. And the way the game does is quite subtly and quite passively, but still it's there. And that kind of balance that the developers have struck is impressive to me, because there has to be somebody in the whole developer team who actually has a sense of how to achieve that balance. And I hope we as a community at some point are going to learn who that is and can tell him well done in person. Yeah, I also wanted to talk a little bit about Spell Critical. Right now this is kind of a sore topic, especially for me, especially on this build. Spell Critical in the past was easy to obtain because the normal bonuses, as you can see here, the normal bonuses were really coming up on literally every build. You could get them from a wide variety of sets, and it was relatively high. The bonus was about 4%, I think. Now this is lower, this is like 3%. Also there were a lot of passives that could give you a spell critical. There was a championship passive that would give you a flat out 3%, and a lot of weapon passives also gave critical. Then obviously we still have the light armor passives who would give us, or the medium armor passives who would give weapon critical. This is alright, but the amount in total was just too high. You would basically gather all that critical chance as a byproduct, and as a result would have a lot of spell critical chance. And actually the same thing we can say for spell critical damage and spell weapon critical damage. These two stats could also be just gathered without having to forgo anything else. You just had to have enough championship points, and you just had to have enough abilities unlocked, and in the end you could easily get over 100% additional damage just by making one crit. Some high-end setups actually could get that push to 140 damage bonus. This is 140, where the base, I mean, still is, as you can see here, as it just says, just 50. They could get 70% in critical hit damage. 70% additional damage. That is huge, with a big H at the front. And this is also what created that imbalance, what also made all these 100k DPS builds possible. And this was a bad thing, because it always was an option to just burn through mechanics, as the community would say. This is something bad, because all the content that was created, that was mechanics, that was really intricately programmed, it would just be burned away by DPS. So it's totally understandable that the developers said, no, we want to stop that, we want to make you actually go into critical, but you will have to forgo other things for this, and that is what we have gotten right now. So again, the developers sent us on a journey where we have to find the balance between all the stats and what we can do with it on our own, and in the end this is going to be a good thing. In the long run, this is how the game survives for another, hopefully 10 years. Yes. So, and to finish with another example of what has been done so right and so well done is a little showcase of the Alliance War skill line, where I just want to point out the really good change. In the past there was, I think it was an update 29, there was this little control Versi, okay, it wasn't outrage, it was a community outcry. A lot of people were very furious about the changes from rapid maneuvers and Vigor. They basically switched places, and you have to know that Vigor is the first, is the real one stamina heal, so that was a really boost to a lot of stamina solo builds, or to for survivability. And rapid maneuvers was just, well, Major Gallop at that point, and it was just quality of life, so they decided to change that. And well, the largest part of the community said, no way, we want rapids back. And that was the rallying cry: we want rapids back, give us our rapids back. And what the developers now did for update 29, it was not just giving them rapids back, no, they did it much better. They didn't give them rapids back the skill, they just pushed Major Gallop from the skill into the passive. And now having that passive just enables you to always be 30% faster when you ride on your mount. Major Gallop at all times. Fascinating, huh? And not just that, I believe. They also changed the amount of ability, alliance points that you get for completing the first 2 quests, the introductory quests on how Cyrodiil and that whole alliance war works. I think they're called Welcome to Cyrodiil, something like that. And just by increasing that just a little, you can easily unlock the Alliance War skill line rank 3 and have continuous attack rank 1 active. Just doing that, you do not need to fight, you do not even have to leave that camp, the safe camp where you will definitely not be attacked by anyone. You do not have to interact with other players or anything, you just go typical RPG solo quest, just like that, but you'll get Major Gallop as a reward. And I believe also 2 or 3 skill points, which is even better. So everyone do that. So to end on that note, please turn in again and have a good night. Bye.